I'm Mike Oxman. I'm one of the managing partners and principals in a consulting practice called No Margin, No Mission. I have had the good fortune of partnering with the Patterson Foundation for several years on an initiative that is called Margin and Mission Ignition. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. Before we dive in, however, I would like to just introduce my colleagues. So there's a guy over there named Larry Clark, who the one I just mentioned was zooming in from Tacoma, Washington. He is my partner in crime at No Margin, No Mission. So the other managing partner and principal. And then our colleagues from the Patterson Foundation who are joining us today as well. So if you can just take a moment, Michael Corley, to wave and say hello.
Hello.
Another Michael here, Michael Zimmerman, who's a fellow at the Patterson Foundation.
Everyone.
And Rachel Hedinger, who is also a fellow at the Patterson Foundation. And I would like to acknowledge our guest speaker who's with us today, another Mike. So we were saying, I think 70%, now 60% of the folks who were on just a moment ago are named Michael. So Mike Mansfield, Charlotte County Habitat.
Good morning.
Say hello.
Hello, good morning.
So with that, I'm going to share my screen and bring up our slides, and we'll jump in and get started. So bear with me for just one moment. There we go. So welcome, everybody. This session today is a continuing series as part of Margin and Mission Ignition, where we're bringing together CEOs from nonprofits in the 4-county region and beyond to discuss their earned income ventures and what made them thrive. And we also will share with you today how your organization, should you be so inclined, can participate in this initiative that we call Margin and Mission Ignition. So we are into our second session for our CEO series. Some of you, I believe, joined us last week, where we heard from the CEO of an organization in the greater Hartford, Connecticut area called New Horizons. And Carol Fitzgerald shared with us about a very interesting earned income venture called Sunshine Wheels, which is a transportation business. And today, Mike Mansfield is going to share with us about the Habitat resale stores that his organization focuses on as their earned income venture. So you're in for a treat. And then next week, we'll have another session with Janine Amick, who's at the Manatee Performing Arts Center, who has launched a venue rental business, which she'll share about. And then we'll end the series in Hartford, Connecticut, with the CEO of an organization called the Chrysalis Center. And Sharon Castelli will share a bit with us about their earned income venture called La Cocina, which is a catering business. And I think it's worth noting that while each of these earned income ventures and stories are unique and will have relevance to your organizations, we also want you just to pay particular attention to the process that they went through to either launch or grow their earned income ventures and the various phases of work that they went through to do that, because that is what will be relevant to the work that we do as part of our initiative called Margin and Mission Ignition. So with that, I just would like to introduce Rachel Hedinger for a moment. She'll share a few Zoom housekeeping items, and then we'll keep moving.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for being with us this morning. We ask that you all stay muted throughout the presentation. There will be some time for Q&A at the end. If you could rename yourself with your name and organization for attendance purposes, that would be great. Feel free to share comments or questions you might have in the chat box, and we'll respond to as many questions, like I said, at the end. And this session is being recorded. That's also just for our note-taking purposes, but just so you are aware.
Great, thank you, Rachel. So our agenda today is action-packed. Just take a moment and I'll make another introduction, and then we'll share a little bit of context, and then we'll turn it over to our guest speaker, Mike Mansfield, after which we'll tell you a little bit about Margin Ignition, what it is, how your organization can participate, and of course, we'll leave some time for Q&A. So I'm guessing that most, if not all of you, know who the Patterson Foundation is, but if for some reason you're not familiar, The Patterson Foundation strengthens the efforts of people and organizations and communities in our 4-county region, and do it through a number of initiatives. You may be familiar with the Giving Challenge, because most of you have probably participated in it. The Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading, Digital Access for All, Patriot Plaza, and the list goes on. They also, of course, have generously supported what we call our thrivability initiatives, and Margin and Mission Ignition is one of those initiatives. And just in a nutshell, what Margin and Mission Ignition is it's an initiative that helps nonprofits boost revenue and mission impact by launching or growing an earned income venture. And when we talk about an earned income venture, just to sort of ground everybody in our definition of it, we define it as an enterprise that generates revenue from the sale of goods and or services. And ultimately, an earned income venture helps nonprofits by providing unrestricted income, which is a great thing. The more unrestricted income that a nonprofit has, the better, because you can spend it on anything that you would like. And then secondly, it's important to note that while those activities can be related to your mission or not, we definitely prefer when they are mission aligned. So the more revenue you're generating from a venture that is attached to your mission, the better. We also like to acknowledge at this point that earned income is not grants or donations. So in the world of nonprofits, obviously, grants and donations account for a lot of income or revenue, but just to be clear, that is not considered earned revenue. And also most grants and donations are restricted. So the beauty of an earned income venture is that there can be many, many different types. And it's really only limited by your organization's own creativity. So here's a few examples. It could be a behavioral clinic, or an art and supply store, or a community theater, or it could be a series of educational trainings or veterinary services, literacy trainings, a low vision store, horseback riding, a school store, a senior daycare center, a thrift store, venue rental business, and the list goes on and on and on. So again, it's really a matter of exploring possibilities and using your creativity to think about either what you could have as an earned income venture, or potentially even having one that you want to grow and take to the next level. But ultimately, again, what we believe are the best earned income ventures are the ones that boost revenue and also increase mission impact for your organization. And in the end, it's all about moving beyond survival, beyond sustaining your organization, and really into what we hope will be a mode where you're thriving. And I guess in that vein, a quote from Larry and I: the best part of a nonprofit's revenue pie is the big slice that's filled with earned income. So if you haven't taken a look at your organization's revenue pie recently, we certainly urge you to do that, because the more revenue you have coming in terms of those various slices of that pie, the better. And if there is one that is significantly filled with earned income, that's even better. So with that, we have a Zoom poll question that we would like to introduce. So Michael Zimmerman, I'm going to let you launch that question.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, folks, we are about to launch our Zoom question here. The question is, how would you characterize the role of earned income in your organization today? So we have 3 options here. It's a priority, and we're always looking for opportunities to expand and grow it. We have some earned income activities, but we want to make them a bigger priority. And then we don't have any earned income activities, but are interested in exploring. So if everyone could just take a moment to vote, as we'd like to get a gauge for where everyone is. I think we have almost 100% participation. We're just waiting on 2 more here. We'll give them another 20 seconds. Oh, 1 more to participate. All right. I think we're going to wrap up here in just a second and end our poll to show the results.
Good.
Okay.
Well, we like to see this. It looks like the group is pretty equally split between number 1 and number 2, which indicates that you either have an earned income venture that you want to grow and take to the next level, or you're looking at potentially taking and making them just a bigger priority within your organization. And even for the organization that doesn't have an earned income activity, hearing from our guest speaker will be just the perfect entree for all of you, because the topic is very relevant. So with that, I am going to introduce our guest speaker. It's a pleasure for us to have Mike Mansfield here with us today. As he said earlier, he's with Charlotte County Habitat for Humanity in Punta Gorda. He is the CEO with that organization and is truly a social entrepreneur, and has really done remarkable things for the organization, both in terms of driving revenue and increasing mission impact. So you are in for a treat. As you hear from Mike, please feel free to jot down questions, because you will have an opportunity to ask and share after Mike is done. So with that, Mike Mansfield, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mike and Larry and Michael. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm glad there's so many people on that are interested in earned income. It was high on our priority list, and we really couldn't wait to participate. And I'll just go through some of the activities that we did. Resale store expansion is really what I'm going to talk about today. Although we did do another MMI version, which was habitat clean out and removal, which I'm happy to say is alive and thriving as well today, but we've rolled that into our restore operations. So we're a local nonprofit here, part of a national organization, Habitat for Humanity International, and but we're governed locally, and we actually build houses with folks, low-income families in need, and they supply labor, sweat equity labor, as well as take home ownership classes. And then at the end of the day, we provide them with a low-interest mortgage. Since 1987, we've built 530 homes. The majority of those homes since 2007, we've built about 425 homes. As you can imagine, you can't really get away from it. If you pick up a newspaper, go on social media, see the news, they're always talking about housing. And right now, the need for affordable housing continues to rise. Right here in our community, we have 2-bedroom homes that are on average, rent is $2,500 a month, which most of the clientele that we serve are in the service industry, and they can't even come close to affording that. We have 19 families currently approved and waiting for homes in our program. You might think that's not too many. We're already, into the third quarter. Well, we're not, because our fiscal year starts July 1st. So we have 19 families already approved at the beginning of our fiscal year, and we receive about 100 inquiries a month, and some of those just aren't ready for habitat, but the ones that are, we help work through the process. As I said, the cost continues to rise. There's supply chain issues, cost issues, which really made us focus on increasing our revenue so we could try to help as many families as we can. And right now, the demand is far outpacing the supply in our area. There's just not enough homes for people to live in. So we've been on this earned income journey for quite some time now. We started back in 2015-16, and it's really been a pleasure, I can say that. And it's great to work with Mike and Larry, because they really keep you on pace, and treat this really like it's a business model, because it is a business model. So the labs are probably the thing for me that stuck out as being one of the most important things that we've ever done in my tenure here at Habitat. What that allowed us to do was really explore, and we got to work with other people. So it wasn't just our team at Habitat attending the lab. There was teams from all other nonprofits, and people stood up and shared their earned income ideas and activities, how they approached, how they got to the point of selecting. So the participation in the labs is really key to the success, I think, of our program. We also had an opportunity to really bring our team together and have us gel as a group, where before that happened, we really didn't work much together. We're all part of the same organization, but we didn't work in that capacity together. This was our team when our initiative started. So you can see I'm still here. Gabrielle just retired after 15 years. Jay Gordon is our immediate past president, and Fred Geiger headed up our resale stores. And then this is our team now. I'm still here. Kelly Dunson's our new senior director of outreach, took Gabrielle's position. Jay has still been with us, long-term board member, past president, and still works on this initiative today, believe it or not. And April Crane is our director of resale. And I just, before we switch slides, April is one of the reasons we were able to roll in the clean out and removal business into the stores and the resale store expansion, because she's really embraced it and understood what an impact it can make on the organization, both financially and helping to bring in new donors. So we explored different possibilities. This is kind of our short list. We thought of renting facilities because we were really short on space. We thought we might just store stuff and then bring it in to the resale outlets as we needed it. One of the other concepts that we came up with was transitional housing. It was at a time where there was a lot of people that were coming off the great recession and the housing collapse. So people were living off of credit cards and they couldn't qualify for Habitat. So we kind of thought about building transitional type housing, having folks work through that and then get into the Habitat program. But that would have been a lot slower to deliver to market. And then the last thing, resale store expansion, is what we ended up landing on. But we vetted all these processes and ideas and went through SWOT analysis, so that it was really, we drilled way down to see what was going to be the best thing for us and had the most likelihood of being successful. So like I said, we landed on our resale store expansion. We had an existing store in Punta Gorda, one in Murdoch. The one in Murdoch, as you can see, has lots of furniture there. Part of what we redid there was that was full of construction material, and it sold okay, but not great. And we needed another reason for people to shop the stores, so we ended up infusing a lot more furniture. This store at the bottom, our Inglewood store, is a 3,000 square foot store, and it had no warehouse space. And I'll get to that toward the end of the presentation. And then the one to the bottom right is that's our purchase and expansion store. So that's a 12,000 square foot store, was a furniture store when we purchased it. It was quick to go to market with that store. So we're on the second phase of the journey now, and we had to develop a business plan. And this is something that was really not new to me, but new to our staff here at Habitat. A lot of times in the nonprofit world, everything is very organic, and we're a grassroots type organization. So everything was kind of done sort of flying by the seat of our pants. So to sit down and actually put together a business plan and follow the business plan through. What it did was it talked about what we were going to do, define what the model was going to be, and then if it was viable as a plan that we could bring to market and that we were going to be able to execute. And I think that the biggest thing with defining the business model, what that allowed us to do was look at some of the operations we had going on and find opportunities to improve upon. So why the fourth location? These two slides pretty much tell it all. So the two locations we had previous to, I said the one in Inglewood did not have warehouse space. So these two locations, this is what it looked like every day. The warehouse was packed, and often there were so many donations that came out the back of the warehouse door all the way to the edge of the parking lot in the street. We just could not keep up with the volume of the material. Everything we don't get, we felt like that was dollars just drifting down the road that we weren't receiving. And we knew the impact we wanted to make on our families. And if we couldn't recapture those dollars, it was just money lost that we'd never see back. The market trends were showing us that this was going to not just continue, but it was really going to explode. And it has definitely happened for us. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next slide. But we did projections on what our sales would be with another store and reconfiguring the stores that we had. And then we knew that we were going to get more and more donations. So our business model is a little bit different. Port Charlotte area has a lot of secondhand stores, thrift stores, consignment stores. So we knew the competition was going to be pretty fierce here. So we wanted to stand a little bit different than some of the other stores. So we wanted to have really clean stores, neat, top of the line merchandise. We wanted to have really good customer service and a great donor experience. We realized our donors are really the lifeblood of the stores. If we don't have a lot of donors that are continuing to bring furniture and tell all their neighbors to bring furniture, clothes, home goods to our stores, eventually we wouldn't be able to keep up. And we'd have stores that weren't full, and then we wouldn't have shoppers if we didn't have good customer service. So these are things we wanted to implement. And then the net revenues from all the stores combined, we're going to help our homeownership program so we could serve more families. And that's what really we're all about, is trying to find ways to serve more families. So the target market, our key customers are the people that walk in on a regular basis. And then we have a seasonal group here in Florida. So everybody knows season. It's a little bit less present now, but it's certainly still viable. We even have product that we put out specifically for our seasonal group. And then our donors again. So the resale store donors, like I said, they're so a big integral part of our organization, and we really cater to their needs. We try to make sure that we're picking things up as quickly as possible. Otherwise, we found folks would either give their donations to neighbors, have a yard sale, or give it to another nonprofit organization. So we had to improve on our processes. So some of these are just the larger competitors in the area, the Goodwill, Salvation Army, and then all the thrift stores and consignment shops around here. And there's a lot of them. But the big ones are the two on top, and they're located very close to us. And that is actually an advantage to us. Some would think of that as being a disadvantage in competition, but it's, how many times have you gone by Lowe's and then there's a Home Depot right across the street? Or you go by McDonald's and you see Burger King right there. It's actually good to have the competition close to you, because what we found is people shop their stores and then they come and shop our stores. So we wanted to make sure that we had location that was close to those other locations as well. So we had to come up with financial projections, and This was quite an exercise that we went through. It's not a perfect science when you're in the secondhand resale business, because if you're in a furniture store and people come in and they want to order stuff, you can order it from your supplier and you can bring it in, you can still make the sale. We can only sell what gets donated to us. So what we did on this is we have a lot of historical data over the years. So we calculated what we were doing in the past, added square footage, how much price per square foot, and we came up with these numbers for additional revenues. And you'll see how we did going forward in the next few slides. But we wanted to have a significant increase in our revenue, and all those net revenues are going to go toward, like I said, supporting our home ownership program. So now we're on the third phase of our journey. So it's implementing the business plan, and what we needed to do immediately was raise some startup capital so we could get started, and then try to operationalize the plan and bring it to life. So what we really wanted to do is figure out how much money we needed to get this thing off the ground and why we needed that money, and then to put the plan into use. So here's our forecast on what we needed to get started. Fortunately, it wasn't a huge sum of money. For some, this might seem like a huge sum. For us, it didn't seem like it was too difficult. We already had commitment of a grant when we talked about doing this project. We had $25,000, so we were seeking an additional $147,000. And this would allow us to hire staff, make the necessary renovations to the store, which ended up being a little bit more than we thought. Create the marketing materials, purchase our point of sale system. We realized our point of sale system was archaic. We really didn't have a good one. We just basically had cash registers, and we wanted to not just provide the new store with a new purchase of sale. We wanted it to be across all of our stores, and that will come back and be integral to the success of this program, because we could compare day-to-day sales on a regular basis. Managers knew if they were ahead or behind on their budgets, and it really kept an eye on the target. So, and then one of the other things that we did that we thought was brilliant was we had always done everything in-house here, but to hire a marketing firm, because we realized we weren't that good at marketing, and we didn't have anybody here at Habitat that had the expertise. So once we hired a marketing firm, it was a game changer for us. That really helped put the word out there, bring us a lot more donors, a lot more customers to purchase product, and it really kind of set us aside in the community to be the #1 resale store in the community. So the infrastructure part, we were really fortunate. Our board of directors has been great here at Habitat since I've been here. And one of our board members said, hey, I have a client and they've been in the furniture business for 22 years and they want to retire and they want to sell their building. And it's a 12,000 square foot store right on Business 41. And they want to get out of the business. So we went and looked at the store, we talked to the owners, we worked out a deal with them, and it was absolutely the perfect location. You can't see it from this picture, but 41 would be to your left. Directly across the street is Goodwill. So, I mean, it just worked out perfectly for us. They also own, the owner of the furniture store owned 2 lots behind the building. So one of the challenges we had, and some of when people found out the building was going to be available, is to put a traditional thrift store there. There wasn't enough parking. You can see in front of the building is the only place there's parking. There's 11 parking spaces in front, but the owners had 2 lots in the back. So we constructed a commercial parking lot in the back of the building that added another 22 spaces, which allowed us to start off as a used furniture store, so we could open immediately and comply with all the county regulations. Once we completed the parking lot, we could add secondhand clothing, home goods, and be just like a typical thrift store and be in compliance. So as I stated before, with the Clover system, which is our point of sale system, that allows us to basically track everything in our store sales by furniture, large appliance, small appliance, clothing, home goods, and we can basically set up tabs so we can go in there, generically price a lot of the things, have a scanner, so it made it so much easier. Some days when we had sales, we had literally 20 people deep trying to check out. Some people would just put their stuff on a sofa next to them and walk out of the store because they didn't want to wait to be checked out. When we went to this system, no more lines, move people quickly through, have a better shopper experience. So how did we get the word out? And that's a big thing is we hired that marketing firm. That was the key thing, I think, that really set us aside on this being super successful. We created the business website, and that gets updated constantly. Brochures in each and all of our stores, electronic newsletter, we send it out via constant contact. The use of social media, we've rarely used social media for our stores in the past. Once we did this initiative, we have things that are probably 3 to 4 times a week on social media. If something fabulous comes into the store, manager will take a picture, they'll go ahead and post it on social media. Immediately we see foot traffic improve. We have print advertising, PSAs. A lot of times it's very inexpensive. You don't have to pay for it. You can get PSAs from local media. And then we held a grand opening, which was awesome. We partnered with our local Chamber of Commerce. We actually belong to several, and we had 2 grand openings, if you will, for 2 different chambers. That was an opportunity for people to see the new Habitat location. And then their word of mouth spread like wildfire, and it really helped bring things on. The other thing we did was live remotes on the radio station. That's something we had to pay for, but in turn it was worthwhile. They would come and do a live remote for 2 to 4 hours, set up at the location and promote the Habitat store. So it was integral in really getting the word out. So our sales growth strategy, the bottom 3 lines were the beginnings of the 3 years that we were reporting on. And then where we are, I just thought I'd throw that top one in, is where we are now. So our projected sales, we were doing really well on our sales, but the interesting part is today we're doing about $500,000 more than when we started the project annually. So that's it's huge to our organization, and it really helps us help more families. And as Mike said before, we wanted to be an organization that was thriving all the time, not just sustaining where we were. We wanted to continue to try to help those families, and knowing that there's such a great demand out there. So you can see our growth was huge, and we continue to make tweaks on a regular basis. So another great opportunity, and when we did our fast pitch and we did our fundraising, we had a lot of donors come forward, but one stuck out from all the others, and she was a really strong supporter of Habitat, but we wanted to try to see if we could engage her a little bit more. So I brought her by the store. I showed her what we were going to do. I explained the whole business plan, and she just said, I've never seen anything like this, that you would go into that in-depth of a model to do this. And she gave us several significant donations over the years. And then we named the store. Her name was Priscilla Dolliver. So we said she was really didn't want her name out there because she didn't want other organizations asking her for money. So I brought her there, and I had a template of what the sign could look like when we had to go to signage. And I said, do you mind if we call it Dolliver Cove? And she loved that. And she increased her donations to us. And it was just, it really helped. She was such a big supporter. She's not with us anymore, but really loved the fact that we were taking this step in the organization again to try to find ways to help more people. So the fourth phase of the journey we're on now, and it's basically tracking and monitoring everything that we get in our progress. And so we would deliver financials back to Mike and Larry and to our board of directors, and then to the stores, so that all the store managers could see the success that we were having because of the new model. With everything else, there's challenges that come up, and there's always ways to improve. So we utilize this tracking and monitoring to take a step back and say, okay, what do we need to tweak? What do we need to change to improve our services? And along the way, we continue to do that. Several things. And I remember being on another panel before, and Deborah Jacobs was in the room, and I said, at the last bullet point, learn, adjust, and course correct, I said, it's inevitable that shift happens, and I had to spell the word shift. I thought Deborah was going to choke on her drink, but there's always going to be things that little roadblocks and ways that you're going to have to tweak and change your model a little bit. So we're constantly doing that today. We sold that small Inglewood store, and now we have a 12,000 square foot store in Inglewood. That helped us increase our revenues just enormously. And what also it does for our organization is it helps us garner more support from that area of the county. We had that small store in Inglewood. We didn't get a lot of foot traffic. We didn't get many donations. It didn't have a warehouse, so we couldn't take too many drop-off donations. And it gave us a little revenue, but really wasn't helping us build the Mission brand out there. And by changing and adding that store, and I will say, when we added that store, we went through the same type of business model process. So our expansion to date, we've streamlined all of our operations, the donations in the stores. We used to have trucks that did pickup and deliveries out of each store. We're now in a central location, and which is right next door. We were able to buy the building next to that store shortly after we purchased the Port Charlotte store, and all the trucks run out of one central location. What that allows us to do is, we used to just, if the stores ran out of Punta Gorda, they brought product back and it just went to Punta Gorda. So if we got a lot of dining room tables, Punta Gorda might be loaded up with dining room tables, and none of the other stores had them. Central location allows us to distribute the product evenly to the stores. We increased our staffing. We realized we had some holes in staffing. This allowed us to take a closer look at that. Pick up our staffing a little bit and increase our revenues. The point of sale system I already talked about is really one of the best parts of it. Is one, you can move people quicker through the store, but two, it's a great tracking method, so that everybody involved, including me, gets to know on a regular daily basis how our stores are doing, if we're behind or ahead of budget. The ripple effect for what we did on this store, again, we transformed all the other stores kind of simultaneously, and we saw great results from every store. We were a little worried that adding the new store would take away from that Murdoch store, which I told you had all the building materials. As soon as we infused the furniture and small appliances to that store, it really took off, and it didn't see any kind of a downturn. So here's the cherry on top is we're able to take these revenues. So since we started this, we brought in a little over $1.5 million in revenue, which has helped us serve 15 more families that we wouldn't have been able to serve since we started this in 2015. That's an average of two families a year. But the best news is it took a little while to get there. So it was a little bit of a slow start, as you can imagine, any business starting out. But now, as I stated earlier, $500,000 a year in revenue is coming in, and that grows every year. So I anticipate in the next couple of years, will be up to about $700,000 a year in additional revenue to what we were receiving back in 2015. So the families, the people that you see there are the folks that we're trying to serve every day in our community. 100% of the proceeds of the stores goes right into our home ownership program to help build homes. 92 cents of every dollar donated to our organization goes into building homes. And then we have a 98% success rate, and we work with people in the lower income of the revenue stream. So these are high-risk folks that can't go to a traditional bank and get a mortgage, and 98% of them are successful in our program. I will certainly field questions. Thank you for participating today. And Mike and Larry and Michael, thank you for asking me to be a presenter.
Well, thank you, Mike Mansfield. Round of applause for you. We appreciate you sharing your story, both insightful, interesting, and just seeing the success that you've had over time is impressive. Why don't we open it up for questions? A couple of things. One, to Michael Zimmerman and Rachel, I don't know if there was anything in the chat that we should flag and ask folks to unmute themselves. Maybe they can share their questions. Or if anybody else has questions, raise your hand and we'll call on you. And feel free to ask Mike questions either about the stores, and or the process that he and his team went through, the phases of the initiative that they went through as part of Margin and Mission Ignition.
We actually have a question here from Betsy Mischel at Nathan Benderson Park Conservancy. Betsy was asking, are some staff volunteers?
Yeah, so we have staff and we have volunteers. So I would say in each of our stores, we have a manager, a cashier, and a warehouse person. So 3 staff people. Any given day, there's, I would say, anywhere between 5 and 10 additional habitat representatives, which are all volunteers. So it's a very labor-intensive business, and we wouldn't be able to do it without our volunteers.
Good question.
Sorry, I would say also that at the beginning of the process, when we involved all of our stakeholders in this, whether we were going to take on resale store expansion or go into transitional housing, as soon as we made our decision, we included all our board of directors, and that's why Jay Gordon, the past president, sat in on our leadership group, all of our senior leadership, the director of retail, but the volunteers in the stores had tremendous input for us as well on how we would expand and tweak our stores, because they are there, some of them every single day. And they had a lot of great insight for us as far as, it's not what I do every day, it's a piece of what I do every day, but they are really helped us shape how we were going to do this.
Betsy, any other questions, or does that answer your question? She's on mute. Okay. Anybody else have a question? A question for this group is, are any of you in organizations that have an existing retail operation of any sort, whether it's a resale store, a thrift store, or otherwise? Kinsey, you're saying yes. What kind of retail operation do you have at Art Center Sarasota?
So, hi, everyone. And thank you so much, Mike, for sharing your business plan and the expansion and how you've been able to create revenues, which is, something that I think we all try to have some part of in our organization. For Art Center Sarasota, some of the retail that we've done and what we're actually kind of developing even more so is that as part of our curriculum, we focus a lot on education. So we have some classes that are offered to the community, which are, you pay to participate in our classes. We offer scholarships to kind of offset that for people who need some financial assistance for our art classes. But something that's been actually pretty, I think, dormant since I started, which I started as executive director in 2021 in May. But was our art sales. And we represent exhibiting artists throughout the Gulf Coast area in the state of Florida. So we've turned through 4 of our areas, we have them as gallery spaces. And we offer art for purchase like a gallery would, but we have a different type of commission breakdown where the greater percentage of it goes to the artist. And then a smaller percentage goes to the art center so that we can continue to pay to do these exhibitions, openings, installation. Like I've got a crew installing 4 galleries right now. We found that to be actually kind of a hidden part of our identity that we hadn't really been capitalizing on. And this past year we did, and we saw a huge percentage of growth just by putting a little bit more focus behind that. And also, I think sometimes messaging is something that we don't always think about, but messaging to the community that come to our space and you can find artwork for $25 or thousands of dollars. There's something for everyone here. And I think that push kind of in the last year, we're now seeing some financial results from that.
Good.
Sounds like a great opportunity. And I would say, you know, by participating in the margin and mission ignition, especially through the labs, and then as you go along through the process, we all get tied up in our day-to-day things. And you know, Kinsey, you just kind of shine the light on it that you may have been missing that opportunity for a while, and then all of a sudden it happened. You're going to flush out a lot of these great opportunities by participating in this. And that's what we found as well. And just things we never really would have thought of if we didn't do this.
Yeah, one other thing that I thought was very interesting that we kind of started this year was we partnered with another organization, and like affordable housing being an issue this year, we partnered with Harvest House. And we partnered with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation to create an exhibition with an artist who was focusing on the housing crisis, specifically in Sarasota. And while we had the exhibition up and on view, part of the messaging that we created was that there was going to be a portion from all of the sales of any of the artwork in that exhibition would be donated to Harvest House to help with their mission. And that actually incentivized people in a different way to want to participate, to engage, to maybe buy something that they wouldn't necessarily buy, but knowing that you're almost getting, I don't want to say bang for your buck, but you're supporting an art center, you're supporting an artist, and you're supporting a housing crisis. You can feel really good about that. And so partnering with other organizations that might not necessarily be art organizations is something that I've been really trying to advocate for, because there is so much that we can do together to help each other. It's small, but the message spreads, I think. So that's just something I wanted to share as another way of creating a different type of retail drive.
It's a great idea.
Well, we love the creativity, Kinsey, and to the rest of the folks who are on this session, again, that whole notion of exploring earned income possibilities and being creative and looking in places perhaps where you haven't looked before is a great starting point for earned income. And it does dovetail really nicely with margin and mission ignition and participating in our learning labs. So I don't think there's any other questions, but if there are, you can certainly feel free to email Larry or I offline. But we do want to just take the remaining 10 minutes to tell you a little bit more about margin and mission ignition and how you can participate. So Larry, you want to take it away?
I will. And Kinsey, I was just thinking, we worked with Visual Arts Center in Punta Gorda. Would love to have that conversation with you. So go ahead, Mike, and open the slides up. Many of you are new today, so we would like to go through kind of what does this mean and how can you move forward? So how does this all relate to you? Mike has shared a story and talked about the phases of work, and in Margin and Mission Ignition, we have a number of phases of work. We have 4 different phases, and the first phase is coming up. But what is it? It really helps nonprofits explore the possibilities to launch or grow their earned income venture. Again, boosting revenue, and increasing mission impact. And as Mike did a good job just sharing, they have been able to build a number of homes because it's helped increase their mission impact. So it starts with the lab series, as Mike said, that they participated in. And the first lab is coming up on September 28th. And that will be in person. It'll be a time where you bring your team together, you'll meet the other teams that are participating in the lab, and it's a great experience for you. We'll do labs once a month. As you can see, lab 1, lab 2, lab 3, lab 4. The fourth one will end in December. There'll be a little bit of homework in between because we want to make sure that you're utilizing what you learn in the lab. You'll share it with us and we'll respond back. And then twice, we'll have an hour consultation with you. So after lab 1, Mike or I will spend time with the team. And after lab 3, Mike and I will spend time with the team. So, but the results at the end is really some valuable learning and tools. And whether you choose to move forward with us or not, just by participating in the lab series, we've learned that organizations really do have a ripple effect and kind of change the way they're thinking inside their agencies. So, but hopefully there's room to move forward, and there's always more if you've worked with the Patterson Foundation in the past. So what's that more look like? If you have an interest and you want to take it to that next level and want that consultation, we'll dive deeper with you into that work and you'll have an opportunity to actually take that forward. So that looks like some intensive consultation. Mike or I will help you put a business plan together. We'll spend a few months doing that. And then we'll help you actually implement that business plan. Between business planning and business plan implementation, as Mike mentioned earlier, there's a fast pitch where you'll raise some startup capital. We help you put that fast pitch together. And actually a third consultant is brought in at that time, and she specializes in fundraising, and she'll help you with our model. Bring the people to the room that then you'll ask for the dollars to help implement your business plan. And then we'll do some tracking and monitoring, and we'll stay with you for a couple of years after that on a monthly basis. So we'll spend an hour a month talking about kind of what's working, what's not working, how's your financials, and help you brainstorm maybe some ways to get around maybe an obstacle you might have in front of you in your business. So it's pretty intensive, about 2.5 years with us at least. Here's a number of organizations that we worked with over the past number of years. Please reach out to any of them and have a conversation. All of them have gone through our process. A couple of them are just moving into the fast pitch right now, but all of them have been successful. Again, the labs start in September on the 28th. We have one on October 19th, November 16th, and December 14th. Write those down and make sure you set those aside. But what you need to do is register. And tomorrow, you'll get a registration for Lab 1. Some of you got it last week, but there's a lot of new folks on the call today. You'll get that registration. Please go ahead and register. You'll get a recording of today's session. And you'll also get a set of these PowerPoint slides. So if you want to share those with the board members, share those with other staff, please do that. The more the merrier coming to Lab 1. If you're so inclined, you can scan this and register right now. And we encourage you to bring a team to the first lab, which would be your CEO, a board member, and some staff. Again, it's what we have found is, especially that first lab, if you bring a number of folks, you can have a lot of discussion once you come back, and there's a lot of excitement that happens. Our CEO series continues. Next week, we have Janine from Manatee Performing Arts Center, and then, as Mike said earlier, we'll have Sharon from La Cocina. So 2 very different projects, and the 2 we've already shared. And we look forward to having you participate hopefully next week, and also registering for lab number 1. Any questions? Maybe Mike, you want to open it up? Any questions about process moving forward or Anything that's been shared today? Hearing none. It must have been crystal clear to everybody, right? Yeah, I see some smiles at least. Good. Well, we really appreciate you participating today. Thank you, Mike, for sharing the Habitat story with us. It was awesome. And we look, oh, go ahead, Fred.
I was going to say, yeah, I'm registered for the September 28th, and we'll have a board member and another staff member there. And I can see that there's some folks that were on last week's first session, and probably some of them registered for 28th as well. There's new folks today, and you'll have 2 more. So you'll have quite a group. And I'm wondering, as people get engaged, and hopefully they get excited, that you've encountered some doubters along the way who don't think it's possible to do it, and you have some folks from different teams that may want to drop out. How do you handle that maybe fear of success sort of thing?
Yeah, well, one of the things, as Mike Oxman, one of the 14 mics that are on this call, said earlier today, is that, you know, we try to keep it mission focused. So if your business is mission focused, it's pretty hard to doubt that side of it.
Right.
And then we help you flush through the lab series. What are the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats of whatever that idea might be, and kind of take it to that next level. So by the time you're at lab 4, there's usually no doubters in the group. You've either decided this isn't the right time for us because of capacity issues, or we are ready to go and we're moving forward. You know, you'll always find at a board level, there's probably a couple of board members that are like, you don't have to talk me into this. But the lab series really prepares you to have those conversations with your board members. And as I said, Mike and I spend 2 hours, you know, an hour at 2 different times. Those are the sessions that you can invite those board members to listen to the conversation that's taking place.
Sure.
It's usually a board member or two. And, you know, every once in a while there's a staff member that's, you know, pushing back, but invite them to one of the 1-hour sessions or invite them to the lab series.
Sure.
Really good question, Fred. It happens a lot.
Yeah, I shared what you know, the level of input that I had received from all of you, and the thoughts that it started generating, and the excitement of the possibilities. And I shared it with our finance director, and she got really turned on with it. It's going to be participating in a lab. You know, I'll share this and the slides from the previous one, and maybe she'll be able to be even sit in on the 3rd session before we even get to the labs.
Yeah, or
that'll build some of that momentum.
It's great. And I would encourage all of you to invite a board member to next week or the following week, just to listen to the process, because each one of those will also go through the 4 stages that they went through and the outcomes that they received. So invite more people to these sessions. You can still register for those.
Okay.
Good. Thanks, Fred. Any other questions? All right. Thanks for participating today. Look forward to seeing you all next week again. And again, thanks, Mike, for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and Mike and
Thank you
Mike.
all.
Thanks all. Appreciate it.
Everybody.